Hi, this is Mr. Wandrum and welcome to my math tutorial. If there are two things that I think are really important for fifth graders to be very successful in fifth grade, the first one would be knowing their multiplication tables. Very important to know their multiplication tables. The other thing that would be very important would be to know the rules of divisibility, because to know the rules of divisibility will help them every time they divide, will often help them when they multiply, will help them simplify fractions, rename fractions so that they can add and subtract them. The rules of divisibility will help them in so many ways in fifth grade. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you some secrets to know when numbers are divisible by basic numbers like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10. We'll start off with the rule for 2. If a number is an even number, it's divisible by 2. Any even number is going to end with a 0, a 2, a 4, a 6, or an 8. So it doesn't matter if the number is 1008. As long as it ends with an even number, it is going to be divisible by 2. So that's the rule of divisibility for 2. Next is the rule of divisibility for 3. Okay, when you take any number, for example, if you take the number 108, you add the digits together to that number. 1 plus 0 is 1, 1 plus 8 is 9. If your answer is a multiple of 3, then the number is divisible by 3. 9 is a multiple of 3 because you can go 3, 6, 9. So 9 is a multiple of 3. If you had a number like 127, you'd go 1 plus 2 plus 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. 10 is not a multiple of 3, so therefore 10 would not be divisible by 3. Once again, the rule for 3, you add all the digits up, and if the answer is a multiple of 3, then the number is divisible by 3. The shortcut for 4 really only works when you have a 3-digit number. Let's say you have any 3-digit number. Let's say 114. Okay, for 4, you look at the last 2 digits. The last 2 digits are 14 because 14 is not a multiple of 4. 4 will not go into 114 evenly. But if the number was 128, children know their timetables well. They will understand that 7 times 4 is 28. So 4 does go into 28 evenly with no remainder 7 times. Therefore, 128 is divisible by 4. Now that's not going to work if it's a 2-digit number like 94. It's not going to work. So the only trick that I can suggest, if it's going to be 94, a number like 94 or any number less than 100, is to do your multiples of 4. And you could say, for example, 4 times 25 is 100. So if you take 4 away from 100, you'd get 96. If you took 4 away from 96, you'd get 92. So you see that 94 is not divisible by 4. The next one we'll talk about is the rule for 5. If you notice, the multiples of 5 are right here, 5, 10, 15, 20, and there's a pattern with each one. Ends with a 5, ends with a 0, ends with a 5, ends with a 0. So the rule for 5 says that any number that ends with a 5 or a 0 is divisible by 5. So if the number would be 115, since it ends with a 5, it is divisible by 5. If the number were 2,650,100, it ends with a 0, so it is divisible by 5. So the rule for 5, any number that ends with a 0 or a 5 is going to be divisible by 5. Next is the rule for 6. The rule for 6 is really easy if you remember the rule for 2 and the rule for 3, because any number that is divisible by 2 and divisible by 3 is automatically divisible by 6. For example, 78. Okay, 78 is divisible by 2 because it ends with an even number. If you add 7 plus 8, you get 15. So 3 does go into 15 evenly. So it is divisible by 3. Therefore, 78 is automatically also divisible by 6. Just to make sure, I would divide 6 into it. 6 goes into 7 once. 1 times 6 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. Bring down the 8. 6 goes into 18 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. So now I see 6 goes into 78 13 times with no remainder, so it is divisible by 6. So the rule for 6 states that any number that's divisible by 2 and divisible by 3 is also automatically divisible by 6. Next we'll do the rule for 9. The rule for 9 is similar to the rule for 3. If you remember the rule for 3, add the digits up, and if it's a multiple of 3, it is divisible by 3. 9 works the same way. If you had 117, you add the digits up, and if you get a multiple of 9, then it is going to be divisible by 9. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 7 is 9. So 117 is divisible by 9 because 9 goes into 9. So you add the digits up, and if you get a multiple of 9, it will be divisible by 9. The last one is the rule for 10. The rule for 10, probably the easiest one, because any number that ends with a 0 is divisible by 10. So it doesn't matter how big the number is, if it ends with a 0, it is divisible by 10. And that's the rule for 10. Just to review, any number that ends with an even number is going to be divisible by 2. Add up the digits, and if the sum is a multiple of 3, it will be divisible by 3. Look at the last two digits. If the last two digits are a multiple of 4, it'll be divisible by 4. If the last digit is either a 0 or a 5, it'll be divisible by 5. If it's an even number and it's divisible by 3, it's automatically going to be divisible by 6. If you add the numbers up and you get a multiple of 9, it's going to be divisible by 9. And if the number ends with a 0, it's going to be divisible by 10. And those are the rules of divisibility.